Does modern cinema rely on the psychotic lesbian trope? It's the Bipolar Index, we're cataloging madness, and today we're flipping to I. This entry looks at Christine Kaufman's 2006 book, Insane Passions, Lesbianism and Psychosis in Literature and Film. To start, I'll say that this book tries to undo the love affair between modernism and the female hysteric. 20th century literature and film tended to delimit sexual difference and normalcy by relying heavily on the lesbian psychotic to make the point. We see it in characters who are delusionally obsessive, driven mad by painful, unfulfilled desire, or even murderous. Queerness can be portrayed as a defining factor in what pushes folks past sanity. Kaufman starts with a commonplace assertion: lesbian representation in media is problematic, but it's problematic in a way that can undermine the social order. Kaufman says that throughout the 20th century, literature, film, and psychoanalytic theory repeatedly linked lesbian desire with madness. The figure of the psychotic lesbian became a cultural shortcut to define what counted as normal femininity by showing what supposedly fell outside of it. Kaufman traces how this figure emerged across modernist literature, surrealist writing, psychoanalysis, and film. Her examples range from the works of H.D. and Juna Barnes to contemporary movies that inherit these older assumptions. In her examples, lesbian desire gets cast as a symptom of dangerous, sometimes murderous psychosis in women. For Kaufman, the lesbian psycho-killer emerges in works by Lacan and Freud, who theorize the social order in terms of sexual difference. Women's desire and agency is a direct threat to the patriarchal status quo, and when that desire excludes men entirely, the threat is heightened. Sive O'Sullivan puts it nicely. The queer woman has to be othered by the narrative, and the neatest way to do so is to make them obviously unhinged and therefore devoid of any charm for the male gaze. So psychoanalysis and queer theory within the context of contemporary literature and film work together to construct the psychotic lesbian as a stereotypical figure in modernist thought. The trope is an exaggeration, and yet it persists, positioned against the clear reality that queer women are statistically more likely than the general population to experience mental illness. The crazy lesbian is not real, and yet it is treated as if it is, leaving queer women caught in between, often without adequate tools to address their mental health. Where does Kaufman ground the making of this figure? Well, in 1933, two maids who were sisters, Christine and Léa Papin, murdered their employers, the mother and daughter of the Lancelin family, in a particularly gruesome way. They slashed their victims' legs and gouged their eyes. The case became a national sensation. The scandal of the so-called Papin affair created a basis for the myth of the insane lesbian and shaped Lacan's theory of lesbian insanity. Observers searched for explanations with a number of questions. What drove the two otherwise quiet maids to this horrific crime? Were the sisters psychotic? Were they driven mad by exploitation and class oppression? Were they secretly lovers in an incestuous relationship? What motive could possibly explain such brutality? In her book, Kaufman shifts the grounds by discussing how the Papin sisters represent at once a blind spot and an anchor point for the ideas about motive, madness, and queer sexuality that have bewitched psychoanalysts and literary critics alike. Rather than asking whether the sisters were really lesbians or really psychotic, she asks why those questions became so important in the first place. Why did lesbianism become such a compelling explanation for violence? Why were madness and same-sex desire so often bundled together? If you tend to pick up books on psychoanalytic theories of subjectivity, identity formation, and sexual difference, you will especially enjoy Kaufman's book. But you don't need to be invested in psychoanalytic approaches to literature to appreciate Kaufman's account of how to read representations of the psychotic lesbian. In her last chapter, Kaufman discusses films that engage with psychoanalytic theories of lesbian psychosis, while falling short of entirely overcoming them. She examines films such as Sister My Sister and Murderous Maids, both retellings of the Papin murders. These films still engage with the long-standing association between lesbianism and madness, but they stop short of treating one as the cause of the other. Both films explain the sisters' motives ambiguously, positioning homophobia and class oppression as likely causes of their murderous aggression. The sisters' supposed incestuous lesbianism is relevant as an explanation for the murders only because it may have been discovered by the Lancelins. Both films suggest that the murders may have been a desperate response to attempts to separate Christine and Leia. Overall, if you're interested in how literature and film construct categories of normality and assign certain people the role of symbols of disorder, Insane Passions provides useful case studies.